Good afternoon, and welcome to the Council on Port Performance's Interstate CDL recruiting event. I'm Blair Wegescheid, Principal Transportation Planner from the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. I'll be joined today by many of our council partners who work closely to deliver workforce development resources across the region. The drayage trucking industry specifically offers so many opportunities, and we hope the information that you hear today encourages you to enter this workforce here at the Port of New York and New Jersey. Just a few housekeeping items before we get started. All attendees have been muted upon entry, and please take note that this session, including any interactive component, is now being recorded and will be made available to others for on-demand viewing. If you would like to pose a question, please use the chat box or Q&A function at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. We will be monitoring the chat and will do our best to pose these questions to our panelists throughout the session. And now let's get started. I have the honor to introduce Rahman Muhammad, City of Newark Deputy Mayor of Job Creation, Workforce Development, Affirmative Action, and Reentry. We are so grateful to the City of Newark and their efforts to help deliver this event. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. The floor is now yours.
Good afternoon, all. This is David Muhammad, our Deputy Mayor. He has not joined us on the call as of yet, but if at this time I can just give remarks in his stead. On behalf of Newark Mayor Ras J. Baraka and the residents of the City of Newark, we would like to thank the Council on Port Performance for hosting and organizing this event. For all those that will be participating as panelists, we thank you. We definitely will look forward to the information that you will be presenting. And we are confident that it'll be helpful for those that are in our listening audience. Once again, thank you on behalf of Mayor Ras J. Baraka and Deputy Mayor Rahman Muhammad. Thank you.
Thank you, David. We really appreciate it, and we really look forward to collaborating with the City of Newark and having your support for this event. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jason Grove, my colleague here at the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, and he's going to introduce our first panelist for the day.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jason Grove, Senior Policy Analyst in Intergovernmental Affairs here at the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. I am currently the manager of the Maritime Community Engagement Center. If you take a quick look at this slide, our contact information as well as the contact email for the office is on the slide there. Before I introduce our first speaker, I just want to share a little bit about the office and its workforce functions. The mission of the Port Department's Maritime Community Engagement Center is to identify not only workforce opportunities for individuals who are local, but for small businesses as well. We create programming that fill in the gaps and engage local job seekers as well as business owners with respect to opportunities that surround the Port of New York and New Jersey. And at the same time, responding to the hiring needs of our port tenants and the New York and New Jersey transportation, logistics, and distribution industry. Obviously, COVID-19 has changed our ability to meet in person with respect to some of our events. However, special thanks to Hilly McCarran and Blair Wegescheid, who managed the workforce aspect of our office, for creating and connecting us to the Council on Port Performance and really ensuring that there are a number of opportunities like this for job seekers to find out information about how to obtain career opportunities in transportation, logistics, as well as distribution. Please also be informed that there is another outlet to find out information about the Maritime Community Engagement Center. We're on LinkedIn. And we'll share that information in the chat. It's a very active group on LinkedIn for the Maritime Center, and we partner with the Council on Port Performance and other members throughout the transportation logistics community to share job opportunities there. So that is an active job bank. It's an active place where you can engage with members of the TLD community, as well as myself and some of the other panelists here today. So I just want to say thank you so much to Hillary and Blair and the rest of the team, and Luke as well, for providing us the opportunity to present and discuss. Next slide, please. I have the pleasure of introducing from the New Jersey Motor Vehicle Corporation, Mr. Michael Cox, as well as from the New York DMV, Ms. Raquel Padilla, and they will talk to you about steps to obtaining your CDL, your interstate CDL. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Mr. Michael Cox.
Good afternoon, everyone. I know there's going to be a lot of information for you to digest, but first I will give you two websites where all this information is available, and there's additional information on the second website. The first website is njmvc.gov. That's the New Jersey Motor Vehicles website. Gives you everything you need to know or ever wanted to know about licenses, registrations, and everything else we do. The second website is the Federal Motor Carriers, DOT, fmcsa.dot.gov. And I will go into a quick basic on what you need to get a New Jersey CDL. You're going to be you're going to be an interstate driver even if you don't leave New Jersey because you work at the port. That's what the federal government considers that. You're going to have a CDL license that's interstate. That means you need to be 21 years old. That means you have to pay $125 to get your test ticket from New Jersey. Then you'll need to make an appointment to take your written exam. Pass your written exam, you'll need to make an appointment to take your road test, which is a three-part test. It starts off with a pre-trip. You have to walk around and tell us about your truck. You need to make sure you know what the vehicle you're driving and what's going on with the outside and what's going on inside the cab. Then you will take a basic skills test, which on a controlled course, you'll be backing it up and offset alley parking and straight line driving. And this is just to show you how to drive the truck. And the third and final part will be a actual road test out on the street, which probably goes about 20 minutes, 25 minutes. And you do highway driving, regular street driving, and then we bring you back to our office. If you pass all those parts, you will be the proud owner of a New Jersey CDL driver's license. Like I said, $125, that's for you to start. If you need to get fingerprints because you're going to have a hazmat endorsement, again, you have to be 21. It's another $125. Unfortunately, we don't take the TWIX card. I know we're working on this with the federal government and Homeland Security, but at this point, we don't do that. You're probably going to need Class A with air brakes and any other endorsement that you might drive. If you're driving a tanker, you're going to need a tanker endorsement. If you're driving hazmat material, you're going to need an H endorsement. You're probably not going to do any doubles or triples. So that's basically what I believe you're going to need. You're going to need to get a current med cert, and you can find all that information off of the federal website because they have a list of all the doctors that are qualified across the United States. Because you don't have to just go to one in New Jersey, you can go to one across America. You're also going to need to hand in a CDL holder self-certification. And in your case, when you hand that in with your driver's license number and answer a few questions, you're probably going to check off category 1 because that is the interstate driver category. Again, you need that even if you don't leave New Jersey. Basic requirements, your vision, you're going to need 20/40 in both eyes. And that's pretty much the basic course, and I don't think I took all my time. Are there any questions?
Okay, at this point in time, there are no questions yet in the chat, so we'll have Raquel talk a little bit about the process in New York.
Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. This is Raquel Padilla from the New York State DMV, and just giving you a little bit of information. Basically, it's the federal program, so all the states are following basically the same thing, the same program. You will need to take a written test, which will consist of general knowledge and endorsement tests. In New York State, it costs $10 for your written test, and if you choose to take any endorsements after you've taken your general knowledge, it'll be an additional $5. Before you'll pay for your permit, and before you can take your road test, it's going to cost you $40 to take a road test per road test. Our road test does consist of 3 portions, the same way as is guided by the federal government. You will have the vehicle inspection, which, as New Jersey said, it was a walk around of your vehicle, certain things that we're looking for, make sure you mention everything, and then we'll move back over to your maneuvers, which is considered part 2. And New York consists of a straight back, offset backing, and offset parking. After you've conquered those maneuvers, then you will be taken on a road test. It takes about 30 minutes. In New York City and upstate, it's a whole different world. You will be driving with local traffic. We are looking for safe driving and safe handling of the vehicle. Just to backtrack a little bit, your permit in New York is approximately $12.50. So it's a little bit less than New Jersey. We do have a website where you can get additional information. It is dmv.ny.gov. Once again, the website is dmv.ny.gov. We have a lot of frequently asked questions, and you will get detailed information. Right now, if you can get the manual online, if you so wish, there's a phone number, you can get the driver's manual. You can request that be mailed to you. There are a lot of services that we have available on that website. On our slide are some links. You can look through those, and those will easily help you go through the forms that you need. There is one form, the 500C, that describes each class type and what type of vehicle you may drive with that license and what the restrictions are for those type of licenses. I'm not sure if I have anything else or if there's any additional questions anyone may have.
Next up, we have Transportation Secretary, Security Administration's Mr. Drew, excuse me for my pronunciation of the last name, Senginger. His email address is listed above, and he has a great presentation for you all. Drew?
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to everyone. Thanks to the Council on Port Performance and partners for inviting TSA to join today's event. It's always a pleasure to speak with prospective applicants and stakeholders on the Transportation Worker Identification Credential Program. Since I only have a few minutes today, I'm going to do my best to focus most of my discussion on applicant information. However, if you have any questions, I've included contact information in the presentation, and also please do not hesitate to enter questions in the chat. First, my name is Drew Sidlinger. I am a section chief in the TSA Enrollment Services and Vetting Programs Office. We jointly administer the TWIC program with the United States Coast Guard. TSA is responsible for the enrollment, vetting, adjudication, and also the issuance of the TWIC credential. If you can move to the next slide, please. And one more slide. Thank you. So while most of you may be aware of TWIC, I'm going to begin by just clarifying briefly what TWIC is for those that may be new to the credential. TWIC was established back in 2002. It was a mandate of the Maritime Transportation Security Act. And following the events of September 11th, 2001, DHS was charged with securing key components of the nation's maritime transportation system. One of the key elements, the key security measures that DHS was required to implement was the issuance of a biometric transportation security card to any individual requiring unescorted access to secure areas of regulated maritime facilities. And TSA was required to determine that those individuals did not pose a security risk, national transportation security. So following an extensive rulemaking process, the first TWIC was issued in October 2007. And since that time, TSA has enrolled more than 6 million individuals in the program. We've issued approximately 6.7 million credentials. And at any given time, we maintain an active population of approximately 2.2 million TWIC holders. The standard TWIC enrollment cost today is $125.25, and the credential is valid for 5 years from the date of issuance. And if you maintain a comparable assessment with DHS, such as a hazardous materials endorsement or a free and secure trade card, you may be eligible for a reduced TWIC fee of $105.25. In brief, and as mentioned on the slide, TWIC provides a common baseline for security and identity verification across the maritime transportation system. Also, it helps incorporate recurrent vetting capabilities to identify potential security threats. One question I often get is TWIC tied to a specific port? No, it is not. It is not port specific. It is a national credential recognized by the Coast Guard at any facility that's regulated, and most merchant mariners also hold valid TWIC. The key and what I consider to be the most important component of the TWIC is the security threat assessment. Following enrollment, TSA performs a check for ties to terrorism, criminal history, and lawful presence. And based on that information, we determine an applicant's eligibility based on a set codified list of disqualifying factors. And most TWIC applicants, 95% are approved with no disqualifying factors. Of those approved, most receive their TWIC in less than 7 to 10 business days. However, should TSA need to manually review any details in an applicant's case or look at any additional information from a vetting source, it may take up to 20 to 24 days to receive a TWIC, or longer depending on the individual's criminal history status and other information. Next slide, please. And one more slide. So for most applicants, the most important step in the TWIC process is obviously enrollment. If you're eligible for a TWIC and you need to enroll, please visit the Universal Enrollment Services website for more information. I've included 2 screenshots here of what that site looks like. So you'll be able to see the interface and also the additional information the TWIC page provides. In addition to the website, you may also contact the UES Help Center, and their phone number is listed on the site also. They're available to provide additional enrollment information. You can pre-enroll on that site, and you can also make an in-person appointment. One of the common questions I get is, do I need to enroll in person? Yes, the answer is yes to that. TSA is required to collect biometric information, specifically fingerprints, so that we can conduct the criminal history records check. And also we're required to capture a facial photograph of each applicant that is printed on the TWIC card for visual verification purposes. Next slide, please. Where are TSA's enrollment centers located? Another popular question and one I wanted to address. TSA and its provider maintain an extensive network, more than 400 locations nationwide. I believe today more than 320 of those 400 sites offer TWIC services. This network is designed to support the Hazardous Materials Endorsement Program, the Tsa Precheck application program, and also the TWIC program. TSA maintains several of these sites in the tri-state area. I would encourage you to go to the Universal Enroll website that's listed on this slide. We have a Find an Enrollment Center capability, and you can enter your address information or zip code in there and find an enrollment center nearest to you, as along with hours of operations and other information that's available. Next slide, please. Next slide. So today the council asked me to speak very briefly about TWIC eligibility factors and second chances, which is a very important topic. One question we've got in the last few years is questions about the vetting process and disqualifying factors. And I want to take a minute or two to sort of clarify this, and hopefully it'll address any concerns that people have. So after you enroll, TSA creates a case record for each applicant in its case management system, and we use various systems and data sources to conduct the security threat assessment. This includes terrorism sources, criminal history, and immigration data that comes from the FBI, the Department of Homeland Security, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, and also the Terrorist Screening Center. These data sources provide information to our adjudicators, and that information is used to evaluate security threats based on specific disqualifying factors that have been codified in the U.S. Code. Next slide, please. For transparency, and we'll talk about it here over the next 2 or 3 slides, I've provided a detailed list of each of the permanent and interim disqualifying factors. We don't have the opportunity and time here to explore each of those offenses, but I will state that with the exception to convictions of espionage, sedition, treason, or other federal crimes of terrorism, applicants may seek redress, which includes an appeal and a waiver process for most of the offenses. For those offenses classified as interim disqualifying factors, applicants may be eligible for a twick after 7 years from conviction or 5 years after the applicant was released from incarceration. Next slide, please. And here's the list of those interim disqualifying factors I was just mentioning. As required by law, the program recognizes that applicants may have past convictions, and many applicants are eligible for a twick despite these issues. So the biggest thing I can say to you today, especially if you're an applicant out there or you have other friends and family members who may be interested in a twick, is don't walk away today and assume that you're not eligible based on a past criminal justice violation. Please visit our site, review the enrollment eligibility standards, and you might find that you remain eligible for a twick. And one final note on arrest and convictions: an applicant who is wanted or under indictment for one of the criminal offenses, if they're under warrant or warrant, we can't actually adjudicate and issue a twick until that indictment is dismissed. So you will come back as disqualified until that information is cleared. Speaking of second chances, and you can go to the next slide. What should I do if you know I'm adjudicated disqualifying? I get that question sometimes too. How this process works is we send out a letter called a preliminary determination of ineligibility to every applicant detailing why he or she is ineligible. An applicant may request an appeal or waiver of the ineligibility determination in writing, and this needs to be received by TSA within 60 days. Also, the applicant may request an extension of that 60-day period if they require additional time. In that letter, it includes very, very detailed information on the process, including contact information, should you have comments or questions. And again, that process is quite swift. You know, a lot of questions come back and say, how long is this going to take? Again, each case is very unique, but if the appeal and the waiver information and the applicant response is received in a timely manner, the process may not require as significant time as you think. The cases where they do tend to drag out is if there's issues obtaining documentation from a state or local jurisdiction, or if the applicant hasn't provided a written response back or things like that. Those sometimes slow down the process. However, again, you know, please be patient with the process. If you've got questions, we provide lots of contact information to you reach out to. And one final keynote on this process, and you can go to the next slide, is we're working very hard to try to harmonize some of our programs. As I mentioned before, there's a certain comparability between the HME and the FAST programs with TWIC. Beginning April of 2020, we were excited to implement Tsa Precheck for TWIC. Because the TWIC and the Tsa Precheck security threat assessments are very similar, we were able to now grant the Tsa Precheck expedited screening for those individuals that are eligible for Precheck and also have a TWIC. And this can be done by entering the credential identification number from your TWIC card in the known traveler field. Again, we feel like this reduces some of the barriers. It also gives some added benefits to those individuals who've obtained a TWIC and have met the requirements of the security threat assessment, and something that we're excited to push out to the population that they've been asking for a long time. Next slide, please. I've included my contact information on here, but as always, please reach out to twic.issue@tsa.dhs.gov with specific questions. If you have specific enrollment questions, please do again visit the Universal Enroll website or call the Help Center line 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Monday through Friday Eastern Time, and they're available to address questions as well. And if you've got additional questions, I'm glad to take them in the chat or at a later portion of this presentation. Thank you again. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Up next, we have a panel presentation moderated by Ms. Emily Apple, Senior Workforce Development Advisor with the NJEDA. Emily?
Thanks so much, Jason. As Jason said, my name is Emily Apple. I am a Senior Workforce Development Advisor at the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, and I'm really thrilled to be here today to discuss career opportunities and career pathways in the drayage trucking sector. So I'll kick us off with questions to the panel, but you should feel free as we're discussing to drop questions into the chat and the Q&A box, and we can address them after the panel. So I'm going to ask my panelists to, if they're able to turn on their video, take themselves off mute, and I'll give some brief introductions and then allow them to introduce themselves. So first we have Lisa Yackaman, and Lisa, I hope I pronounced your last name correctly, Carl Pitt, Victor Carlin, and Christian Vargas. Carl is with Graceful Dynamics, and Christian and Victor are both with Marine Container Services. All right, so Victor, why don't I start with you? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, how long you've had your CDL, how long you've been driving at the port, and any other information you want everyone to know?
As of right now, I've been driving for 53 years. And I like going to the port. You know, it's nice, no problems.
Can you tell us how you decided to get your start in the industry and what sort of your story was for getting started?
Well, I was driving a tractor trailer before I went into the service. I was a jet mechanic. Came out of the service, couldn't get a job. So I went back to driving a tractor trailer until now. I'm still driving.
That's great. Christian, if your sound is working, maybe I'll move to you and ask how long you've had your CDL and you've been driving at the port.
Sure. Before I start, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Christian Vargas. My friends call me Chris. I've been in the truck business for the last 23 years. As an owner operator, I've been working over 20 years. With the company that I'm at, Container, I've been with them over 7 years, which I'm so proud to be part of the family here in Container.
That's great to hear. And then Carl, do we have you there? Is your sound working?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. So I'll ask you the same question just to introduce yourself, talk about how long you've had your CDL and how long you've been driving at the port.
Your sound.
I believe I got my CDL license about 17 years ago. I've been driving on and off since then. I've only been at the port, working at the port for about a year as an owner operator.
And what drew you to the sector and what excited you about the opportunities?
As far as the port specifically, I do know that it's pretty consistent as far as the money you can make, the home time that you're able to get, which is pretty much be home every day, every night. So that kind of drew me to it. And it was a time when everything was slowing down throughout the rest of the industry. The port was the one that was continually moving. So that kind of drew me to it.
That's great. And you mentioned the flexibility as something that really drew you. Can you talk a little bit about, you're an independent owner operator, correct?
Yes.
Can you talk about what made you choose to be an independent owner operator over a company driver and what the differences are for folks that are considering going down either path?
Well, I kind of wanted some freedom, to some autonomy to kind of do what I wanted and pick and choose certain things that I like to do. It's been definitely a great thing, a great decision for me. I do like the port as far as, like I said, the home time,
You have consistency. For those who like to know what they're going to make on a weekly basis or the daily basis, it's definitely a great sector to be a part of, opposed to working in other parts of the industry is kind of volatile, up and down.
Christian, as someone who's also an independent owner operator, do you have anything to add about what drew you to being an independent owner operator? Did we lose Christian?
Nope, we're here. We've powered through.
Well done.
Can you hear me now better?
Yep, now we can hear you.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, I was saying that the good thing that I like to be an owner operator is you can choose how much time and how many hours you want to work, and like the other partner said, freedom. You don't have like 100% responsibility to show up every day to go to work. You can choose what you want to do, and when you find a good company, like I will say, I will repeat it every day, as a marine container, if you find a good company to be proud of what you're doing every day, you don't see driving a truck as a job. This is like something that you do and something exciting.
That's great. And Victor, you're also with Marine Container Services, but as a company driver, could you talk a little bit about that experience and what drew you to being a company driver versus independent? Is Victor there?
Excuse me?
Sorry, just wasn't able to hear you before.
What do you want to know?
What drew you to being a company driver versus an independent owner operator?
Well, to be an owner operator, you have to worry about your truck and everything else. As a company man, you worry about things, but you don't lose sleep over it. And like I said, it's a very good company to work for, Marine Container. The boss is unbelievable. That's why I've been with them for 27 years. Well, it's what you make, really.
Hey, I finally am able to speak. Christian's sharing his computer with me. So I just want to elaborate a little bit on the differences between independent owner operators and company drivers, if that's okay.
That sounds perfect,
So yeah,
Lisa.
basically company drivers are employees and they work for one specific company. They have pretty much set hours and they get health benefits, they get other kinds of sign-on bonuses and incentives. Independent owner operators like Christian, and I believe also like Carl, they work for themselves, they own their own truck, whereas Victor drives the truck that belongs to the company that he works with, but they own their own truck, they pay for their own gas, their own maintenance, their own insurance, that sort of thing. But they can set their own hours. They can work for different companies if they wish. They have unlimited time off whenever they work as much as they like. So it's just a little bit more flexibility. It's all preference. One is not better than the other. It's just a choice. It's just what you prefer.
Thank you for clarifying that, Lisa. And I'll stick with you and ask, we have these drivers who have been in the sector a long time, but who have different stories of how they got in. Generally today, how would you say for someone that's just starting out in the sector and wants a pathway in, how do they become a drayage driver? Are there organizations or groups they can go to help them do that? We certainly heard about the types of credentials that they need, but where do they get started? Oh, you're on mute.
I know. Oh,
yeah, I can answer that.
You want to answer that?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
Go for it.
Yeah, the first thing the first thing as a new drivers, and I hope, the new drivers, can listen to this. The first thing that you cannot think is about how much money you're going to make. Because when you go when you go out to work as a truck driver and you think about how much money you got to make, sometimes you put everybody who is around you in dangers. The first thing you have to think is about yourself, your family, and the company, and the people around you. Because if you go out thinking about only money, you don't pay attention what's going on around you, around the truck, and that's when accidents can happen. And being truck drivers is very good. It's a very good job. Like, I'm gonna repeat it again. All you gotta do is just looking for a good company. Like, we are a marine container.
But we're also trying to find ways to make it easier for drivers to enter this sector. I think that's one of the issues, is that, you know, there are folks that have their CDL and they don't know where to start. They don't know how to get started down here at the port. I can tell you, even if you just drive around the area, you will see so many companies that are advertising, that have their phone numbers there that say drivers wanted. And like I said, you have a choice: company drivers or independent owner operators. We have a few different ways that we're trying to increase our outreach, and that is through the LinkedIn group that we have, through the Port Authority that also has job postings there. And, you know, some companies will offer the training themselves. They want to get the drivers. It's okay if you don't have experience with this type of driving, or you have limited experience. They're willing to train you. They have safety coordinators who will take you in, that will give you ride-alongs, that will get you up to speed. There's also companies, we have one, I believe there's going to be a flyer in the packet. There's one that works out of Newark called Logistics Professionals, and they also offer training programs. They have some online programs, and they work with connecting drivers who want to get their CDLs and need the training, drivers that already have the CDL, but they don't have a twick card yet. They will help you secure your twick card, and they will also connect you with companies that are looking to hire drivers. So it is a very specific kind of truck driving. I think there are folks that are just not as familiar with this kind of driving. I feel, and I'm sure the guys would agree with me, that the drivers who drive at the port are the best of the best. It's a big responsibility. There's a lot that they have to do. They have to pass the background checks, as you covered earlier with the trick cards, and they have to be in good health. And driving these big rigs, it takes talent and it takes skill. And so getting started in drayage, there's also a trucker's resource handbook that's available on the Port Authority website that has a lot of information. But we're also going to include, I believe, in the packet, in addition to all the folks who are hiring right now, and the information about the different training programs that are out there specific to drayage driving, and the folks that are out there trying to connect you with employers at the port. We are also trying to increase our outreach and spread the word about port driving, and how you can, like I said, you can be a company driver, and there's plenty of work right now. We've got so much freight coming in the Port of New York and New Jersey that if you don't own a truck and you want to be a company driver, there are plenty of companies out there that have a truck ready for you to drive. If you want to be your own business owner, you want to be a small business owner and you want to drive your own truck, we've got jobs for you too. So there's plenty of information that we're trying to spread. There's also other organizations. There's a national organization, the Owner Operators Independent Drivers Association. There's a few other organizations that are out there too. And social media is a great place. There's a lot of Facebook groups and areas where you can go and meet other drivers and learn from other drivers, you know, where they work and how they got started. So, you know, and of course they can always contact the Bi-State. You know, I'm always willing to help people break into the business and learn more about port driving, and webinars like this, honestly.
That's great, Lisa. So much information, so helpful. I'm seeing a ton of questions in the chat, so I want to make sure that we have plenty of time to go through those. But before we move to sort of the audience Q&A portion, I'm going to ask each of our drivers today, what's the best piece of advice that you could share with someone who's just looking to get started and entering the field? And I'll limit you to one piece of advice for now, but maybe during the Q&A, you can share more wisdom.
As a new driver, the best thing that you can do is don't be shy. Ask questions. Don't think that you know everything. Never guess. Be sure what you're doing behind the steering wheel, because, like I said, this is it's a nice job, but it's dangerous. So if you don't know what you're doing, when you got emergency, it's very easy to get everybody involved. So as a new driver, ask questions. Never start by yourself, at least for the last 2 weeks. Start with somebody else next to you and ask questions. Make sure that the company that you work with, make sure you know your supervisor, you know the owner, you know the manager, you know, have a beautiful relationship, like a family. So that's what about being truck driver is like family member.
That's beautiful, Christian. Thank you for sharing. Carl, maybe I'll go to you. What's one piece of advice you would give to the folks on the call today?
Excuse me. Well, I can kind of piggyback off of what he said as far as not thinking that you know everything. I thank God for the opportunities he provided me with, and the direction that he has given me. Thinking I think I was 21 when I first got my license, and I kind of thought I knew everything at that time. When my mother told me, "Well, you're not working, you were interested in driving trucks, won't you go down to One Stop?" And I'm like, One Stop isn't going to help me to get a CDL license. They're not going to pay for me to go to truck driving school. But, I always act like I know what I'm talking about or what's going on, but I still wound up listening to her, finding out that she knew what she was talking about. So I went down to One Stop and, went through the process that they had there. And lo and behold, they had a program which allowed me to go to truck driving school. So the school, they paid for everything. I was able to, they had a list of schools to attend. The school helped me I already had my permit and everything because I kind of was anxious, and I took the initiative to go down a motor vehicle myself and get the permit. But I had no experience in driving a manual or clutch, stick shift, whichever you like to call it. So they taught me how to do that. They put me in a truck. They taught me everything that I needed to know about to help me to get my license. So I would say do your research. Just ask questions whenever you meet somebody you know that drives trucks. Ask questions about it, whether they're a company driver or owner operator. Just do your homework and don't just jump out there and have to make a lot of mistakes that you could avoid if you were looking into things and kind of finding out all the information you could about it.
That's great. I think every mother would love the advice of listen to your mother. So I'm gonna give the last word to Victor before we move to the audience Q&A. So Victor, you want to give us the last word here?
Okay. I like the way Christian said, when you go to a place of business, you look at what kind of vehicles they have. Check the boss, see how he is. And then if you want to become an owner operator, you go to a truck stop, ask around. That's what you have to do. You have to ask people. You can't just go to the place and say, okay, you won't like it. I had 3 jobs in 54 years. So, I checked everything out. And that's what you have to do. You just can't go there and say, okay, I want to drive. I never drove a truck before. But who knows?
All right. Well, with that, thank you so much, Victor, and to all of our panelists. With that, I think we'll go to the audience Q&A. So Hillary or Blair, I don't know if there's any area you want to start on in particular.
Thank you so much, Emily. Great job moderating the panel. And Lisa, thank you so much for bringing all these remarkable drivers together. And also, I'd like to say thank you to Drew Sindlinger. If you have concerns about cross-country or long-haul delivery, I think the message that they're sending is take time to consider the benefits of a predictable and reliable career in drayage trucking. With the constant demand for imported goods and low supply for drivers, you can ensure your job security. And to put this into perspective, before we get to the Q&A, I just wanted to say that during the month of February, we had record snowfall, and our truckers still average 65,000 gate moves each week. So that's phenomenal. And now we're going to take a look at all the questions that have been popping in through the chat and the Q&A. And so the first one is going to be for our New Jersey DMV team. Do you have to go to a CDL school, or do you, can you just study for the test and take the test?
Very good question. At this present time, you can just study and take the test, but starting February 7th, 2022, the federal government is going to insist that you need to be trained. You'd have to go to the federal website, and there's a list of schools that will train you. They're not driving schools per se. They will teach you about the written test aspect and everything you need to know. They'll school you about your pre-trip and what you can expect on the road test, but they're not driving schools. They just give you a certificate saying that you've gone through the federal training. You'll bring that certificate to New Jersey or any other state, and we will log it into the computer, and then you will follow the regular process in New Jersey, which would be take the written exam, do the pre-trip and road test, and then we give you a CDL license. As all the truck drivers said, driving a truck is a very hazardous thing if you're not trained. You have 80,000 plus of pounds driving down a road. At any given second, something could happen, and an accident with a truck that large, even if you're only going short distances, is a catastrophe.
Great, Michael. So that brings me to the next question for you. Someone in the chat said that they have a twick and they have a CDL-B, no endorsements. Are they eligible to be an interstate truck driver?
They can be, but they can only drive what their class license is rated for, which means they can only drive a Class B vehicle that's over 26,000 pounds, but they can only tow a vehicle that's 10,000 pounds or less. If their vehicle has air brakes, they have to get an air brake endorsement. If there's a tanker on there, they have to get a T. If it's over a certain amount of gallons and it's hazardous, they have to get a hazmat. But yes, you can be interstate with a Class B license.
Great, thank you. And just a reminder,
I forgot one thing.
Sure.
They would also need to be 21.
Very good. And just a reminder that at the end of this session, all the participants for this event are going to receive a package, and it's going to contain all the active job opportunities in drayage trucking that are available at the Port of New York and New Jersey. So there'll be plenty of job opportunities to apply directly for. It seems like another question has come in about pay. So, and it's specific to, maybe Lisa, you can handle this question. Interstate CDL, do you get paid by the miles? And if so, like, how much could you get paid?
Well, I'll start and then we can ask the drivers. We're all sharing one screen, which is what we should have done in the beginning. But, pay varies as far as what the drivers get, company drivers versus owner operators. The company drivers tend to be paid on a salary, whereas the independent owner operators, sometimes they're paid by the load. It depends on what the lease agreement is that they had. Do you want to talk, Christian, a little bit about that?
Yeah, as an owner operator, it's better off to work local and not go too far, because when you go too far, many things can happen. Truck breakdown, expensive, DOT problems, and you might see in your paycheck, you might see a big paycheck on Friday, but when you deduct of all the expensive, you come out with almost nothing. So I prefer to stay local and not go a long distance.
Yeah, and as far as, I don't know if you were looking to see like a range, we've done some polls to see what the range is for typical salaries and what we've seen for the port drivers. We've seen that company drivers can start anywhere from 60 to 80, 85,000 a year, and that's with benefits and health insurance and all of that, and retirement. Independent owner operators, you know, it's a really wide range because it really depends on how much they choose to work. You know, some guys work 8 months out of the year, some guys work all year long. I have seen some guys are making in the range of around 50 to 60. But there are independent owner operators that work all the time and within their hours of service, obviously, and they're making upwards of $200,000 a year. Again, some of that is of their compensation is helping to pay for their truck and their gas, but there's quite a wide range of salaries there. And it's all up to the individual driver, how much he wants to work if he's an independent driver, and how many companies he works with.
Fantastic. And this is kind of a general question for all the panelists. Did you pay for your CDL training yourselves? And are there programs that you recommend?
I can help answer that question. You can pay for it yourself if you have the money to pay for it. It can get a bit expensive depending on the school that you want to attend. Like I said, I went through One Stop. That's a program through the city of Newark that helps people who are seeking employment find jobs of all kinds. And this particular industry was one that I was interested in. So I went there and went through the process, filling out the application, doing everything I had to do for the application process. Selected a school. I went to the school, I attended that, which they paid for completely. I didn't have to pay anything out of pocket. I was able to practice. I had a truck to practice in. They had a yard. They took us on road tests. They provided the truck for the road test. And I was able to get my license. You can get your Class B, your Class A, you can get the passenger endorsement. And no, so I didn't myself have to pay for anything out of pocket. And if I could add on to the other question about the pay, and like Lisa said, it kind of varies depending on how you would like to work, what you get paid. I mean, you can, like she said, make over 200,000 and 100 to 200,000 if you work hard. If you want to take a lot of time off, you may not make that much. It also depends on the company you decide to go with. If you want to lease on to a company, like have your own truck and lease on with a bigger company, you can. You have to pay for everything. If you take that route, you have to pay for your insurance, your fuel, your truck payments. You want to be smart about how the decisions you make, or how much you pay for your truck and things of that nature. But once you have all those expenses out of the way, it's still worth it to be an owner operator. But it's everyone's discretion in what they choose to do.
And I'll just jump in real quick. Christian, we confirmed here that Christian did pay for his own CDL. He is an independent owner operator. And Victor has gotten his license. He was 17 when he first started driving at the port, which now you have to be 21, but that's just a testament to how long he's been a port driver. Back then, you just got a regular license, right? And he did pay for it himself, but.
Right. And to know, as a driver, that's a learning center. Every day you learn something new. Every day.
Yep.
Okay, a couple more questions are coming in. I know we're running a little over, but I think they're valuable to address. How long is the process to get your CDL, and can you take your spouse with you when you are an interstate driver?
That kind of depends on you. How quickly you learn and catch on to things. I've seen someone go through the process in about a month, and I mean, he was really good, and they pushed him along. He was able to get his CDL license in about a month. My process, I think my process was a little over about three to 4 months, somewhere around there. And as an owner operator, you can take whoever you want with you if you have your own authority, meaning that you're not leased on to any other company or anything. You could kind of take who you want. If you are leased on with another company, they may have certain guidelines and rules you have to follow. They may want you to have additional insurance and fill out certain forms if you have passengers to ride along with you.
We'll take the question about whether or not you can have your spouse with you. You know, I asked these guys and they said that it actually depends on the insurance and the company you work for. And you know, in their experience, you're not allowed to have a passenger with you in the truck. Not that you wouldn't want your beautiful wife with you, right?
I would love to have her in the truck, but that's.
Stop there. That's good. Yes, he would love to have her in the truck, but it's not allowed.
Great. Okay, here's maybe a question for Michael Cox. Someone's passed their air brake endorsement. Should it be shown on the physical license?
Yes, it would be on his license. Did you guys hear me?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
There's a question specifically
just let me go one
for.
step further. Any endorsement that you take will be reflected on your CDL license, and that's for any state in the United States.
Okay, so there's a question specifically for Victor, and what makes your boss, you know, and somebody that you really want to work for?
Oh boy.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, as a company driver, go for it.
How would I put it?
Come
He's
closer.
very kind, you know. He looks out for the drivers and all. You know, we got good equipment here. Some places you go to, forget about it. It's falling apart. Whenever there's a problem, it gets fixed and everything. So
You just call Victor, he'll warn you about those folks. They're few and far between.
yeah, no, I really like working for Marine Container.
Okay.
Just going to check in with Blair. Did I miss any questions? I know we had some issues where they were sending questions privately. Have I missed anything?
I think you got all of them. I've also been typing in some responses for others within the Q&A portion on the bottom right-hand corner as well.
Okay, so we do have an email. Sure.
Sorry, the gentleman from Jersey, DMV, said that the air brake endorsement would show on the license. In New York, it doesn't show on your license as an endorsement, but if you don't have it, it will show as a restriction.
Great, thank you for sharing that distinction.
Okay.
Okay, so if you have any questions after the event, you could always email tldjobexpo@panyj.gov, and our team will do our best to be able to answer those questions. And before concluding the event, I would like to really thank the members of the Council on Port Performance Workforce Development Committee, but especially to David Mohammed for his vision for this unique event, and to our special drayage working group. These volunteers work tirelessly, much like our drayage drivers, to identify innovative solutions, to create training, and share information about lasting and fulfilling career opportunities like drayage trucking. Make sure to join our LinkedIn job board. We've included that in the chat, and thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it. So just a reminder, at the end of the event, we're going to be sharing with you a full package that will include all the current and active job opportunities available at the Port of New York and New Jersey related to drayage truck driving. Have a good afternoon, everyone.